Get to the Alco-Copter. It's Amigos, episode 303. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about Alco-Copter.
I could use a visit from the Alco-Copter right now. Oh, man. What a day.
Now, Aaron, I know you're not much of a flyer, but surely you've watched enough of these sorts of TV shows in your youth that featured a helicopter to sort of want to take to the skies on one of those beasts, right?
I've been on a non-flying helicopter, if that counts.
I don't know that it does, because you're not really on it at that point, are you?
I was on it. I was in it. You
were in it?
It was on.
What were you doing?
You know, they had. Don't ask me what was going on, okay? But it was one of these things they had at the Valley Park. It was like super happy fun day, you know, that they have occasionally. Okay. And they had a helicopter come down and land, and then just kind of let you look through it. I think it was like something to do with I think it was like a hospital helicopter. It was some kind of, there was a theme going on, and so you could get in there. And so me and the boy, he was real young. We kind of went in there and looked around. It was pretty cool, pretty loud, you know. And then we kind of.
Well, you've done me one better. I've neither flown in or been inside a helicopter before, so. I've always been nervous. You know, I've had opportunities to take helicopter tours in various places I've been. I've always demurred. There's just something about not being able. I mean, it's a total illogical fallacy to think that if you're in a plane crash or if your engines go out, you'll be able to glide safely to the ground. That's a lie. That doesn't
especially
happen.
not in a helicopter.
But in a helicopter, you've got nothing. You've got none of that. You've got nothing to help you.
So
if things go wrong.
You've never been in a copter at all. Like, have you been to the Air Force Museum in
yes,
Dayton?
I have, but I've never gone inside. I didn't know that they had craft that you could go.
Yeah,
inside
you could go. They've got some you can go in, look around.
Okay.
You know, helicopters have changed a lot since, let's say, I don't know, Vietnam, for example, or World War II. But you're right. There's without a failsafe, you always have that illusion that the plane might make it down.
Yeah.
Or the helicopter is going to make it down, but not in a good way. But all that said, you don't often hear of like a helicopter crash. It's not super common. You know, now you see collisions or stuff, but not the crashes so much. Now, would I hop into a helicopter and drive around? No. I would not, unless I was being meta lifted somewhere. I would not want to.
You know, I read an article in a magazine that I get about Jerry Jones' helicopter. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of helicopter I want to ride.
What's he got?
In.
Big rich guy.
He's got the Ultra Lux. So you know, he goes between. I guess the Cowboys compound is not in Dallas; it's somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so he's constantly going back between there and the stadium. And he's like, I started out driving, and that was horrible. There was a lot of traffic, so I bought a helicopter.
Jerry's not gonna go down there with the riffraff. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Big money, Jerry. He's gonna be paying. He's gonna be. And if I had huge money, you know, I saw some boys in here mention it, and so I'm gonna bring it up. If I had the big money, I would want a helicopter that would look something like the Airwolf, and it would have to play that theme while in the air. And
I only know that from your phone.
Yeah, and also it has to do the loop, because that's the one thing the Airwolf copter could loop. You know,
how did they pull that off on the TV show?
They didn't pull that off. They tipped the camera probably and went.
I was going to say, was there some camera trickery involved?
I'm going to see where you stand here. Are you a Airwolf guy, or are you a Blue Thunder guy?
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never seen a helicopter-based television show.
What about, let's cut it in the middle. Are you a Street Hawk guy? Because it could helicopter. It was a motorbike that could spin around real fast. Go, no, nothing?
I've never seen that either.
Manimal?
I've seen Manimal. I mean, who hasn't seen Manimal? I've seen Automan.
Automan had a helicopter. You know, the blue, the neon. That was a pretty good one.
I gotta say, most of my helicopter experience comes from MASH. Watching those come in, they were with the big glass bubbles,
big bubble,
you know, on the front.
Yeah, those actually look like they would be scary to ride in. And the thing about those, always, you know, because if you ever watch that show, and I guess this is realistic, they've got the gimmicks on the side where you can put the person's body. You know, the gurney on the side. Right. How sick are you? It's like, can't we get a helicopter where you can put the people in it? You got to strap them to the side.
If you're being airlifted out of a war zone, you don't care. You're just glad to be getting out of there. Doesn't matter if you're strapped to the side of a gurney or whatever.
I just can't imagine you're like in a semi-conscious state, and the next thing you know, you look down and you're half a mile up in the air. You're like, oh, God.
That would be frightening. You're not kidding. Well, Aaron, let's leave helicopter talk because we're going to need to save some for next week because we're doing another helicopter game next week.
Are you kidding me? Oh, my God.
We're gonna move on to this week's Amiga news, shall we?
Amiga news.
All right. What do we got, Boat?
All right, Aaron, we're going to start things off with a piece of hardware that you actually own. I had no idea about this, the Star Drive R2. Now, before we get into this this news story, Aaron, tell us a little bit about what the Star Drive R2 is.
This is really about the... Okay, so I'm going to put myself on mega size here for a minute for those watching at home. And this is from Amiga Love, who is one of the King Dongs of Amiga hardware, I think, but I think we could agree on that.
Oh, yes.
So what you got here is a gimmick like this. This is a Microbotics Starboard, I believe is what the formal name of this thing is. And what it is basically an Amiga 1000 peripheral, if you will, that gives you X amount of memory, and I think that gives you like a SCSI port. Something like that there, Boat. Whoops, ignore that. I knew I forgot something. Anyway, so... these things, I didn't realize it, Bo. By the way, this came from that sketchy deal that I made that you backed out on. This is another thing.
That's the gift that keeps on
giving. The sketchy guy. Listen, when you don't mind possibly being shot, you can make a deal, Bo.
Yeah.
So anyway, the sketchy guy.
Where did you meet that guy? Did you meet him at the St. Albans Mall?
No, I met him. Now that would have been sketchy.
Yeah,
no, I actually met him at the it was the Sheets there in Scott Depot, Boat.
Oh, yeah, the new Sheets.
If you could, yeah. So, anyways, basically, what Amiga Love goes into is what would make this a better piece of hardware. Apparently, I've been from what I've seen here, this is pretty rare. This item, who knew? And then even rarer is the thing that goes in it, which I believe that is the Star Drive R2 board, which is it's Star Drive R1 originally. It's a gimmick with a real-time clock, and I think it's also got some other crap on it. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's an additional board that flips into this first board. Anyway, long story short, somebody went through and basically reverse engineered it and made their own. And they're selling this thing. And there's what it is. It's, among other things, it gives your Amiga 1000 a real-time clock. And these are for sale. Now, I looked into this. I believe they're selling the Star Drive R2. I believe it was like $140 or $160, something like that. And it's one of those deals where the guys taking orders or whatever, or asking for interest.
Pre-orders.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that pre-order's a little bit strong. You know what I mean? It's
maybe
more
just
like
gauging interest.
That's right, gauging the interest, Bode. And so, in fact, hey, look, there's my comment. If you're interested, if you happen to have one of these, if you're Amiga 1000 guy and you have one of these, and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I'd pay $100 and some change for some kind of weird gimmick that's modern, that plugs into it, that does some weird stuff.
Wait a minute, a weird gimmick that's modern that makes your Amiga do weird new stuff? That sounds like every single piece of Amiga hardware ever created.
You got that right. And so I'm actually sorely, I don't even use this thing that often, but I'm sorely tempted to buy one of these just to be the king dong of this one device. Like, no one on earth would have a better one than me. And
I think you should do it, man. Yeah. I'm all for it.
Thank God I've got all this disposable income. I don't need to eat next week or get gas. I'll get the Star Drive R2. But anyway, that's what it is. And, of course, this is delivered by Amiga Love, the passionate lover of all Amiga. So it's good stuff. It's entertaining whether you have one of these things or not, just to see what they did, what this thing's all about. And Amiga Love's rigged his up to do all kinds of crazy stuff. So there you go. But, yeah, very interesting stuff. Worth a look.
All right. Well, we're going to move on down the line. The next thing is our buddy Doug. He has reviewed. Now I guess he's done a couple of videos about the Pi Storm.
I'm well versed in these 2 videos, Boat.
Okay,
have you watched these yet?
No.
Oh, I've been waiting because I know the Doug. All right, now we've talked about the Pi Storm a few times on the show as a cheap, sort of a Swiss Army knife of cheapery, for folks that want to upgrade their Amiga on the super cheap with an Amiga with one of these Pis. So Dan had a look at these, and RMC had a look at these. A couple other guys, Chris Edwards installed a couple of these, and so it was like, wow, everyone has pretty glowing reviews of these, but no one, I don't think, had really put these things to the mega test, right? And I was waiting because I knew Doug. I had heard Doug was on it, and I know Doug. Doug is not going to lightly tap this thing. He's going to put the boots to it,
Yeah.
And boots to it, he did. This is sort of a Pi Storm. It's like an hour of a Pi Storm burial as Doug relentlessly slams this thing. Now, full disclosure, Doug correctly states that yes, this is a item that is still effectively an open beta. All right, it's a group effort. And there's plenty of room for this thing to work and get better. But he does go through its many, many shortcomings and the many, many problems he had. I knew this was going to be a burial because I knew this. I read some stuff on Twitter that said this was taking Doug longer than he thought. Never good. Right. When that happens, he's getting on the top rope. He's winding up the elbow, and he dropped it. Amongst the problems he had was just getting games to work properly. The fact that it was actually slow, it was doing a lot of stuff. Now, I'll watch this whole thing. The fact that it doesn't cost $11, which he relentlessly pounded. Now, I think his estimations of the total cost of this thing were a little ludicrous, but I still think this is a good deal. But yeah, he's correct. He's not going to you're not going to get this thing installed in your system for $10, $11. You're going to be $60, $70 in probably before it's all said and done, which is still, I think it's a good deal.
Still, it's a good deal.
But
as long as it actually does what it's supposed to.
That's the problem. And so now, is this thing ready for prime time? Before his second video, I would have said absolutely not. But he made a second video, and there was a reason for that. So if you're watching at home, you can see he's playing a game here, and the game is really slogging along here. And this happened to Doug on a lot of the games he tried, where it didn't work right. It kept crashing. The frame rate was in the toilet. All right. Well, it turns out, and Doug made a second video, which I think was called episode 97.5. It turns out
WQBE.
Yeah. Oh no. Wow, I didn't even consider. You're an idiot. Anyway, it turns out that Doug was loading some stuff in his Workbench boot up that was causing an issue with the Pi Storm. Okay. Again, beta. All right. So you've got to expect weirdness. Now, once he corrected this, things did improve, sorta, right? Like, for example, here he is playing Pinball Dreams. Pinball Dreams, if you look here, it runs like absolute garbage. Or does it, it's real laggy. Same thing, Agony's going to be, there's a bunch of, all these things have problems. And this is because he had an issue with what he was running, okay? When he went back and fixed this stuff, it ran better, but he still buried it, okay? He still says it's got problems. It's still not running up the spec, but he buried it. Now, all the brain trust behind the Pi Storm have been all over this to try to figure out why Doug had so much trouble, where some other people didn't have trouble. Now, I suggest that probably other people didn't give this as thorough a testing, but it could be simply as down to that he just has stuff coming up in his Workbench where that other people aren't using, or his particular. You know how Amigas are. All the particular hardware he's got, who knows what was causing the trouble, okay?
Sure.
But the moral of the story, it's a twofold moral. Number one, anything you get to plug into your ancient Amiga could conflict with other crap you already got, okay? Bam. Yeah. Number one. Number two, this is a beta item that still is up and coming. He goes into how difficult it is to install it, how much rigmarole you have to go through. Listen, we both know that that's part of the early adopter. You're going to go through it, just like I did with the Amiga. Sometimes you just take a beating. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Now, at the end of the day, do I think that Doug thoroughly and completely took the air out of the Pi Storm? Yes, I think he did. I think a lot of people were like, wait a minute. This ain't as great as I thought it was. But I do think he at least went in there and tried to explain that it could get better. But, I mean, I think he ran into enough trouble to where he knew the kind of video he was going to make when he put this thing out. And I can't blame him if it's not going to perform up to spec. Anyway, long story short, this is something you want to watch. Make sure you watch the whole first video, 97, then go and watch the second video, which is the update, right? And something else I would consider is if you're going to install one of these Pi Storms, I would literally install it from scratch. I would redo your hard drive, the whole 9 yards. And then I also would be very careful what you boot into, because your mileage may vary. There you go.
Right, and you can't discount the whole NTSC versus PAL thing.
Well, you can. Yeah, you can. In this case, you can discount that. It doesn't do it. I will say this: would this stop me for? I'm ordering. In fact, I ordered me and you one. And when I say that, I mean I put us on a list. All right.
Okay.
So will it stop me from dropping my $15 or $30? No, I'll still get one because ultimately I think these things are going to be fine. And for the 1000s, I think they're going to be a godsend. That's the only reason I care, because we've both got 1000s. It would be nice not to have you kickstart disc and maybe even have stuff that we can, have a little hard drive. That'd be nice.
Sure.
But, everyone else, your mileage may vary, and be prepared to be disappointed or at least to wait until they get everything ironed out. And more updates to follow.
Well, hats off to Doug for, for putting in the work and doing all getting down in the weeds with that thing, because the last thing you want is for to be sold a bill of goods that you don't get. And I don't think that anybody that is selling the Pi Storm is making any kind of ludicrous promises, but people's minds tend to jump to, man, this is going to be great. It's going to work perfectly. Well, and sometimes they need somebody to walk them back from the edge a little bit.
I mean, Chris Edwards has used this thing for a while. Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see if he puts up like a rebuttal or because I mean, again, most of him and Dan were just installing it, showing you how to install it, showing you how to get it up and running. They didn't really, in their videos, they didn't really get into the day-to-day operation of it to see how it was going to act, And that's why I was waiting on Doug. So Doug will sit down and pound it with apps and stuff that you wouldn't normally think about. And so that's pretty much what I expected from Doug. Doug did a great job. And so we'll just see what happens from here. But I have a feeling a lot of the stuff that Doug took a crack at will ultimately be ironed out.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. Next up, we're going to see our old friend RMC.
This was
just put out a new video, and this is a little bit of a barn burner, Aaron.
This was a big deal.
I'd not heard of this before. This is a USB drive that you can hook, that's got a Arduino board in it that allows your PC to read Amiga discs.
Yes, I think this is opens up a lot of interesting doorways, particularly for people. I'm wondering if this is something we'll be able to use on, say, a Mister at some point, or a bare minimum a Raspberry Pi, because what you could do with something like that, like for example, I've got the Amiga here. You could literally rig one of these up as a Drive Zero and still be able to use discs in these alternative Amiga solutions. Pretty interesting, Boat. But Neil, of course, listen, Neil has got a guy, Boat, and he's some kind of genius guy, and he's apparently this has been an ongoing project, and what Neil is showing off here is sort of like the newest installment of the project. And so to not keep people in suspense that haven't seen this video, it's a USB drive that will allow you to read your floppy disk from your Amiga natively on your PC.
Read and write, the chat is reminding us to say. Yeah.
And on top of that, it will also let you pull the data off in two different types of formats to try to get around the copy protection on some of these stuff. Now, I would love to have seen him try to copy some stuff like this, for example, the Dragon's Lair floppies. Some of the real ultra floppies I was never able to copy. I would love to see how this thing tackled those, because those things were like uncopyable back in the day. But that much said, this is sort of, I mean, there have been kind of versions of this from back in the day. There was like these weasel type gimmicks they're called something weasel, cat weasel, or something.
Cat weasel.
Where you'd hook these things up. But I mean, When he pulled that out of the box, it just looked like a USB drive. Bam. That's it. And then so that's what you want.
I think that there's room. First of all, this is a godsend for anybody that does any sort of archiving of, if you've got an old user group, a disk archive where people were bringing in homemade stuff, or if you have disks full of old journals or something like that, and you want to archive them, this is great for that. You just pop it in and you copy the things over, and then they're safe. As far as, are people going to be buying these things to run ADFs off their original discs on their PC via emulation when you can easily download ADFs of whatever you want anyway? Maybe, maybe not. A lot of people enjoy popping a disc into a drive. It's part of the ritual and all that stuff.
What I think of? It's funny. Our good buddy Frank over at Retro Rewind, they've just sent out about 1 million of these Kickstart discs, right? And I've talked to some other guys that were doing it. And so he had to take his Amigas and dedicate, he was knocking discs out left and right, all right? This would be the perfect alternative to that. You could just use a PC to knock them off. It'd be so much simpler, Bode, if you could do it that way. This came out a little bit too late, like a couple weeks. I don't know if this is readily available, and Neil doesn't get into any pricing or ordering as far as I didn't see him mention it at all. Did you?
No.
And so we don't know if this is going to be something that's going to be for sale, but I would hope that this would be something that would be something that, listen, this is a moneymaker. You know what I'm saying? This is this is a straight up moneymaker.
I really you're right. It looks exactly like a USB floppy drive.
The caveat to this, Bode, this is running, to get this to identify in your Windows machine, you effectively have to run a souped up special version of WinUAE exe that has support for this drive and I think one other, okay? And then you're able to read these drives via WinUAE, okay?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, but I don't want to tell people. I don't want people to be like, "Oh, I can just pop these discs in my PC Windows. We're good to go." You're not good to go. It's not how it works. Not yet, anyway. But I think that would not be that difficult to come across, But still, this was a game changer as far as I'm concerned. But I think this is a real big deal, and Neil did a good job of putting it down. So, and kudos to the fella that put this out. I'm gonna try to catch his name here, but I don't know what his name was. You remember what his name was right off the top of your head? I don't see it listed here.
I don't. I'm
sorry. We'll look into that. But yeah, good stuff. Check out, always, of course, RMC stuff's always gold. And this is a real coup, folks. This is the first I'd heard of this. Rob Smith. That's right, because he made a Cure joke. So there you go. So thumbs up to Rob. Well done. Well done. There you go.
All right. And our final news story of the week, Aaron, comes to us from the one, the only Amiga Bill. Now, you just spent some time with Amiga Bill last night, didn't you, Aaron?
I did. Bill was very kind and invited me to come to the latest WOG meeting, his users group in New York. I got to sit in for about 3 hours last night with the fellas. The guys over there are very much like the Coco Talk guys. These are sort of your old guard hardware junkies who know more than you'll ever know, and they've seen it all, and are sharp folks. And it was a real pleasure, learning experience to set in, and as like a fly on the wall. Because what am I going to say? Hey, here comes Dummy. I was all like,
that's what you say. That's exactly what you say as soon as you're in a meeting.
And of course, Bill is a unique personality, a pleasure to be around, everyone's best chum, and he was great host. They did use an open source version of Zoom, which I'd never seen before, and it worked well. So I'm going to put that in the memory bank, Boat, for International Computer Club next time around. But yeah, it was great. So with all that said, what was the story here? What do we got? Oh, this is his video on the newest features of 3.2.
Right. So, as we all know, Bill doesn't make a ton of videos. He streams every week, but he doesn't make a ton of standalone videos. But when he does it right. And this is basically a rundown of the coolest features of Amiga OS 3.2. So he talks about the ease of installation. He talks about the mouse using the scroll wheel and all that stuff. He goes into all kinds of... Look at that scroll wheel cam right there.
Yeah, I love that. Rock and roll.
Yeah. So... This is this is definitely worth watching if you're on the fence about 3.2, or if you've already ordered it and you want to get the most out of it. Make sure you give this a watch.
I guess we should mention, I don't think you have it on your news, and I didn't see it mentioned this, but they talked about this in the meeting last night a little bit. I'd heard about it too. Cloanto, well, they've had enough of this, and so they have the litigation's on, Boat.
I purposefully didn't put that in the news because I didn't know if we were going to go down the rabbit hole.
Well, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole.
Well, so Cloanto is going to war with Hyperion to try and get them to stop manufacturing or selling 3.2. We'll see how this ends up.
What I thought was interesting, I don't want to we don't have to get into a big thing about it, but the one thing I thought was interesting was, and this was almost a very nice story, believe it or not. And the nice story was, apparently, for the briefest time, Hyperion and Cloanto had struck a bargain,
right,
Boat, to allow Hyperion to do this. Well, apparently the sticking points, among others, are that they are making a profit from it. They have Bill talked about the fact that they'd used the Boing Ball, the labels, and that kind of cheesy Mickey Mouse crap about now. All that said, and of course, last night in the meeting, people were firmly behind Hyperion, and which is understandable. Right. But that much said, and we know the Cloanto guys have always been nice to us, and you've interviewed, what was his name, Michael, over there, real nice guy. Listen, everyone has their angle in this, and when at the end of the day, it comes down to people attempting to protect their rightfully bought trademarks and symbols and whatnot. And so you can understand why they would have these continual throwdowns. Now, is it silly? Maybe, but we're not businessmen, and we don't know how much money is on the line when it comes to this sort of thing. So, I guess they're going to go at it again. Frank just mentioned that they haven't officially litigated this yet, but it's on the table here. So we'll see what happens. But it's a shame. But how many times have we said that now? So it's almost pointless to even bring it up, which I'm sure that's why you didn't even list it. But just for full disclosure, there you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Amiga news. It's time to talk about the new Amiga hardware pick of the week over at RetroRewind.ca. This week, Aaron, we're going to be talking about the Amiga Flash ROM. So if you want to mess around with some custom kickstarts, I'm talking about legal stuff, kickstarts and all that stuff.
Listen to you. You're legal.
If you want to get into the, people, there are all kinds of custom kickstarts and stuff out there. And if you want to flash your own ROM replacement to stick in your Amiga, this is the thing to get. You get this thing, and then you also get another device called the programming adapter, and then you can use that to actually reflash this ROM chip, and you can pretty much put whatever you want on here. Now, here's the cool thing, Aaron. Say that you already know what custom ROM you want on the Flash ROM.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy the programming adapter. You can actually just request any ROM image that you have to be burned onto this chip, and then it will be sent to you. All you have to do is send them the ROM image, and they'll do the burning for you. So this thing is available at RetroRewind.ca for the price of $35. But if you use the promo code Amigos10, you can save 10% off this or any order. What a deal, Aaron! What a deal!
This is very interesting and timely, Boat, in a way. And I like the fact that, and I also think he even mentioned that he even has the 8 megabit version as well.
But two Kickstart ROMs on there.
That's right. Listen, me and you aren't burning jack squat ROM-wise. No, we're a couple dullards.
That's it.
We depend on the kindness of strangers, Boat, often because we don't know what we're doing. But most people, especially some of the finer, more intelligent, brilliant folks that listen to this show, they know what they can do with this stuff. They don't need us to tell them. Get out there and get it. Listen, Retro Rewind, solid as a rock, never let you down. Located right here in good old North America. They take care of your business. And Frank's up there slaving away to make you happy. He's a good guy.
Yeah. So we thank Retro Rewind for being an official sponsor of Amigos.
There you go.
It's time, Aaron. It's time to venture into the beer cave and come out with Alco-Copter.
Bam, Alco-Copter. Hey, you know how many times did you have to read this name with this logo to figure out exactly what it said? I was like, surely it didn't say Alco-Copter.
Listen, that logo is there to look cool, not to be read.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, Boat, Alco-Copter. I don't think I'm going on a limb here when I say that you've probably not played this before or heard of it.
This one had not. I hadn't seen this one before.
I think we may have mentioned this on one of our Amiga news segments, like it was coming out, because I know it was covered on Indie, but I didn't have any recollection of what this was. So, Alco-Copter. Now, this right here, for starters, we should mention that this is a freebie.
Yeah.
You could go download this right now from the Flashtro worldwide distribution site, and you can get it free 30 levels, complete game. So there you go right there, right out of the gate. This was released in 2018. I saw some different dates on this, but that's what that says inside the game, 2018. So
yeah, and on EAB, like the author first posted about this in 2018. So I'm pretty sure it's 2018.
So, again, this thing was put together by an outfit called Flashtro, who also published it, published in quotes. And these guys had worked on another game that I've never played this game, but I know we've talked about it, River Raid Reloaded. You ever play that one?
Yeah, I have.
How was that?
Fantastic.
Was it good?
It's great, yeah.
They've got a new thing come out that's in preview right now. It's called RERO. There's a 9-level preview that's out on their website now, but the preview is a couple years old now, so I don't know if they're ever going to get around to finishing the game or what's going on. The game was worked on by some. These guys basically are. They're basically crack screen guys, and I've looked at some of their portfolio, and they've done some stuff like go in there and crack games and add cheats and hacks to games to make them better. They've done a lot of that. Of course, they also worked on the aforementioned River Raid Reloaded. So they do some games. They've done a lot of crack screen stuff on like multiple consoles and computers. So they're not just Amiga guys. I mean, they're working everything, man. So they're doing a lot of stuff. And this game, it's funny. At least the opening of this game looks straight out of like a crack screen. It looks like something that
would load before you moved on to another game.
That's right. In fact, when I first loaded it, I was waiting for the actual screen to come. It just never did. I was like, oh, that's it. So the artists on this were a guy named Matthias Haydorn. I believe he goes by the name Alpha One. That's a cool guy name. Then you've got one of the graphics guys simply known as Chipmunk. Fair enough. Say no more. And also the third graphics fellow, Musashi 9. That's also pretty cool, man.
Yeah, these guys are on the cool guy club with those handles.
Yeah. Come on, it's Flashtro. It's not Geektro. These guys are flashy.
That's true.
And then the music's done by Hucka, not Sucka. Hucka. Hucka also worked apparently on Solomon's Key 2, whatever that is. I don't know what that is. Now, this game is billed as working on any Amiga with 1 mega memory. However, I found a chat comment that said this game will work on any machine that has 512K of chip and 512K of slow. So you may even get this to work on 1000. We're going to try that boat at some point. There is only the ADF of this. As far as I can tell, there was no WHD load. I was also informed that the game is incredibly small. I think it was like 128K.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a small game. I guess that was part of the gimmick on this thing. So let's talk about it, Boat. You load this thing up on disk, and it comes up to the beautiful logo screen we were talking about. Again, looks straight out of a cracked bit of software, and there's a nice little tune that plays, and then you're basically moved into the actual game proper. There's also kind of gives you the rules, which I like. It's that kind of thing. The rules in this game are pretty simple, aren't they, Boat? You play the Alco-Copter. Now, what is the Alco-Copter? It's my kind of copter. It's a copter whose only job is to deliver booze. Booze to people. I love that. That's all. Great. That's all I need to know. I recommend it. That's it. You play as the Alco-Copter pilot, and you have to navigate your way through 30 levels to deliver the booze to everyone in the game. Now, this isn't like a Crazy Taxi style game. This is just there's a start point as an end point, and in a case
it's very similar. It's very similar to think about Space Taxi in your mind.
Well,
think about that. The what you do in the game isn't exactly the same, but the stages are laid out very similarly.
Yeah, sorta. Except that game has you basically retracing your steps. Where in this, you're pretty much going. There's some retracing, but you're pretty much going to a beginning and an end. There's no picking anybody up. There's picking stuff up. So the Alco-Copter.
So yes, basically what I just said.
Well, no, because in Space Taxi, you're going back and forth, ferrying people around. If you think about the way that
the stages are laid out, if you look at the viewpoint of the camera, you're landing on platforms and you're negotiating a stage without trying to run into stuff. That's what you do in this
I will say one thing. You remember that game UG that we liked and everyone else hated, right? Which is a lot like Space Taxi. This game handled sort of like that in a weird way. You know, the actual copter itself.
They're all cut from the same cloth.
Well, yeah, I suppose you're right. That there are 30 levels you negotiate. Now, at first, they start off pretty simple. You just kind of go through like a maze. And when you get to the end, it's sort of like a garage door that you basically park.
Yeah, the garage door is the exit point for all the levels.
Right,
you start off on an Amiga colored pad, a red and white checkerboard pad, and you leave through the garage.
Correct, Boat. And now the scoring in this is interesting. You get bonus points for not firing as much and not taking as much damage. So there's a couple different ways you can play this game. Now it's funny. I watched the playthrough of this. The playthrough, whoever did the playthrough is a real stud. He hardly ever
used plenty
fired.
of save states.
He
posted on EAB.
Oh, did he? Because if you watch him play Boat, and I'm sure you watch this too, he hardly ever fires. I mean, he does the bare minimum of firing. Man, I'm in there shooting like a maniac because I'm not as confident in my piloting skills as this guy was. But you can get more points for shooting less and taking less damage. I do like the fact that there's a blood alcohol level gauge. That's something I never thought I'd see.
You don't see that often.
I see that every day at work.
Flying game.
Yeah. So, as you go through the levels, eventually they start getting a little bit harder. There's going to be stuff that in your way you have to shoot. There's going to be stuff that shoots back. There are going to be sort of like side areas you have to go to pick up stuff. There's going to be stuff that stomps you, stuff that electrocutes you, stuff that you have to kind of chip away at. There's stuff that have spread shots. There's a lot of different, they basically just ramp up the obstacles as you go through. And that's pretty much the game. It's not, they don't really, like, if you go all the way, I watched all the way to the end, it's not like at some point it really turns up the wackiness. I mean, it's just a steady increase. But when
we should talk a little bit about how your copter flies.
Well, I was getting to that, but yeah, why not now? Go ahead, get into it.
So, in the game, when you are moving horizontally, your helicopter does not lose altitude. It only loses altitude when you're standing still. When you're standing still, you'll start to lose altitude a little bit, and then a whole lot. It's like the old catch-up routine. You know, a little, and then boom, it's all on the plate.
It is like that. That's very good.
So this becomes a problem when you're trying to land like into the garage door, okay? Because when you go into the garage door, you've got to land on the thing, and you start out and you're like, man, I'm just going to slowly glide to the platform. And then as soon as you're 1 millimeter above it, the helicopter goes into its crash mode. And then you can't go through the garage door and you're busy dying.
It's funny. That's not something I had happen to me.
Oh, I had it happen a lot.
Now, I'm not saying you're wrong about the way it flies. I just had that happen to me before I got to the garage door. You know, I read a lot of comments. If you go to the Flashtro's website or Lemon, I read a lot of comments on this, and the continuing theme in the comments was that they thought they botched the controls. All right, botched controls. I saw it over and over. We've played a game very similar to this. All right, with similar control schemes. Okay, and you have to remember that the control makeup is the game. Okay, right. That is the game. So if they had perfect controls, right, you would just win the game. There would be no difficulty at all.
Yeah,
because you have to have.
You're exactly right.
And so if you complain about the controls, I can understand that because yes, they can be infuriating, but that's the game.
Right. And this all goes back. Really, the root of all of these types of games is Lunar Lander. That's where all this comes from because you're negotiating gravity and thrust with lateral movement to land in a specific place.
Great game, by the way. Love that game.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I don't have a problem with the controls in this game at all. Are they the same as the controls in Space Taxi or UG? No, but they don't have to be. You don't have to have the exact same controls on those games to have a good game. Your controls just need to be consistent. The controls need to play by a set of rules. In this game, they do. They play by a set of rules. You know what you need to do.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I agree with you. I was wondering which way you were going to lean, because you never know with U-Boat. It can be crazy time all the time. But the controls, they are what they are, okay, whether you like them or not, but they play fair. They say, here are the controls, do your best. And they don't alter them.
Here's my problem. My problem with this game has nothing to do with the controls. It has everything to do with the collision.
Okay.
When you collide into something on this game, you don't just bounce off it. You stick to it, and you get reamed. You get reamed. Whenever you land on something, near something, in something, what I would have preferred is for it to bounce you off it. But in this game, there's no bouncing off it. And you take, anywhere from a quarter to half your life bar in damage whenever you land into anything, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, so here's the thing, and I can see your point, but I think if they'd made the collisions bouncy in this, their health and scoring mechanism would have been changed. Okay, they give you a decent amount of health. Okay, and so you're right. If you hit something, it's very easy to because it's one of those games where it just continuously takes health until you move. So you got to move. And it's hard to move.
And I'm not saying that they needed to bounce you off like a pinball.
Right.
I'm just saying they need to remove you from the object.
Right. I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong either, but I think the fact that they give you a generous health bar, I think that's their way of saying, I think what they wanted here, instead of having the bouncing, I think they wanted to have you take that. We've played plenty of games, but where they have this sort of element where, sure, they give you a health bar, but they drain it like nobody's business. And so I can understand that. It's a choice. I can see where it turned off some people. I mean, this game. Let's cut to the chase here. This is a hard game.
Yeah.
All right. Because even if you get really good at the controls, these are pinpoint flying maneuvers you're doing through very difficult and slim corridors, and you're very nearly avoiding obstacles and shots. This isn't a game you're going to blow through 30 levels in an afternoon. The guy on the video may have done it, but it probably took him a week. I sat down with this thing and played it. I played this thing on 3 different occasions this week, but every time I played it until I got pissed off, and then I quit. And so then I would come back and I would play it, because this game will piss you off. It's one of those. You'll be playing along, and then on the flip side, occasionally you'll barely make it to the exit, and you'll feel good about yourself, but often you won't get anywhere near the exit, and you'll feel bad about yourself, which happened to me quite a bit, Boat. How do you recall how far you got into this game?
I think I got to around level 5.
Oh, okay. I did better than you for once. I can't believe. Of course, I had a lot of time to play with it. Did you use as a controller? What did you use?
I used a PS4 stick.
So did you use the analog controls on that?
No, I tried using the analog, and I did not do well with that.
I was wondering about that. I was wondering about that. I was also wondering how this would fare if you could. This doesn't come with native keyboard support, but I'm sure you could wrangle something up. I used the old patented Super Nintendo ripoff pad on the Mister for this one, and I can tell you, I think it would probably be better with the Super Nintendo controller than a joystick. There's something else I want that I would say.
Well, you need something. I mean, even if you're using a joystick, it needs to be a digital joystick where you can just sort of hit it. You need to be able to nudge it, back and forth. This is not a game where you want to have sort of sweeping analog type movements. That's not what these controls are suited to.
Yeah. I did notice that if you beat the game, you get a message saying that you did something that even the developer couldn't do, which I thought was funny. beat the game. This game, if you look at the later levels, it gets insane. I mean, it gets absolutely insane. And I was marveling at how you get through it. I think what they did here, the Flashtro guys, is they just thought, hey, let's knock something out here that's fun. I mean, it's not the deepest game. It's not the most awesome game, but it's fun. It's also free, so that right there gets it points for me. And this is a perfectly serviceable title, I think. I mean, we've played a lot of games.
And these guys, I read a lot because this guy he's an active poster on EAB, and I read as it was being developed, I read sort of like all of his thoughts behind it. And he's definitely old school. He's like, I thought about putting in a password system, but I thought it would make the game too easy. And that's classic, PC developer, where you're concerned that your game is going to be looked down on because it's quote unquote too easy.
This game needs a password. I'll be honest with you. And that was annoying. Now, if you're playing this with emulation, that's no problem. But I didn't have the ability to do save states. They give you a goodly amount of choppers. You get a lot of lives in this, but you'll use them. You'll use them all. And it is sort of gutting to get pretty far and then to lose all your guys.
Well, it just killed me. And it's like I said, like I'd get all the way through a level and I'd have like a quarter of my health left, and I'd be like, man, I'm doing it. Then I'd get to the garage door and I wouldn't time the descent just right, and boom, that quarter of that health bar was gone, and I'd be starting over. So,
do you think this is one you'll come back to anytime soon?
No, I won't return to Alco-Copter.
So you enjoyed it? You played?
I thought it was okay. We got to look at these things in context. Okay, it's a free game.
Yeah.
It runs on any Amiga.
Almost.
It controls well.
Yeah.
It's got a nice title tune soundtrack. I wish that they had some in-game music, but you can't wish for that on the Amiga.
Well, geez.
It's not a bad game.
Yeah.
It's not a bad game. I don't enjoy the way that they handle collisions, and collisions are what make this game. Controls and collisions is what Alco-Copter is all about.
If they had made this more to your specifications with bouncing, for example, would this be a game you would go back to at that point?
As long as there was a password system, where I could cheat by using save states, but I don't want to have to play through the same 3 or 4 levels. I want to start where I stopped, basically.
Yeah, I understand. We should mention the chopper has 3 distinct facings. I think you touched on this a little bit. It left, right, and then sort of up and down. And now, which I will say, I'll give them some credit on that too, because we've seen chopper games where they sort of don't put that in, and it works nicely in this. And it's a graph with I think the graphics are pleasing. I will say there are some backgrounds that get too busy, and they start to intermingle with what the important parts of the foreground. That was something that kind of threw me off on a couple levels too.
Yeah, all of the obstacles there's a varied amount of obstacles. They're constantly throwing new stuff at you. And I thought, the graphics were this is definitely not a AAA title, but for something in this sort of puzzle game type genre, I thought the graphics were entirely serviceable.
This game would not have been out of place if it had been released in 1991 or 1989. Yeah. It would have fit right into a standard thing. It's funny. One of the biggest challenges in this game is to just fly straight. That sounds, just because controlling the chopper is hard, and much of the game requires you to go down these thin corridors, and just maintaining control of your chopper is the #1 most difficult part of the game. And so it's obvious.
That's the entire game.
Yeah,
is maintaining control of your chopper.
So I had a look to see I know we got some feedback on this, but I had a look on Lemon real quick. We'll look at that. The Lemon people, as I mentioned, almost every one of them to a man jack that reviewed this complained about the controls. But overall, this got a Lemon score of 6.17. So, in the average area. What do we get from our Discord community, Boatster?
We got a couple reviews. We start with Super Famiking. He says, while not a bad game, the whole thing screams homebrew. It looks and sounds fine, but it's the controls that let it down. It's hard to line up your copter precisely to avoid the traps, and so quickly becomes a frustrating affair. Although the game is a one-trick pony, this is still worth 30 minutes of your time just to say you played it. I'm not going to overly crush it due to it being a low-budget homebrew title, but tighter controls really would have helped. 5 out of 10. Jigglebox writes, great music on the opening screen. In-game sounds were okay. The graphics are attractive and overall an engaging game. As a Specky fan, it reminded me of Airwolf and seemed just as tricky. 7 out of 10. And Graham, W. Vebke, writes, for me, this game sort of reminded me of Hero, but unfortunately, I couldn't get into this game. That is sort of an apt comparison. To me, it's sort of like Hero crossed with Blood Money.
To me, it was more like Airwolf to me than Hero.
Mm-hmm. He says, I don't know if it's me or just my perception, but the controls feel like they were not consistent. It seems to move different distances depending on where you are in the maze, if you have stopped and which direction you moved prior. I get the gravity affecting the up and down movement, but this was something else. You collect beer and the usual maze pickup things like keys as well. Your goal is delivered at the drop-off location. That's really all I saw in a frustrating 15 minutes, and I rage quit for the first time in ages. The art and music style are typical homebrew and do enough to set the scene of the game, but if you've read the credits of this game, they sum it up best, 4 out of 10.
There you go. Well, I think that takes into care of that, Bo. It seems like that's pretty much a consensus that it's a tough game. You may get frustrated. I would agree with that.
Absolutely. All right, Aaron, you want to saunter on over to our YouTube channel? Let's see what's been going on over there.
Let's do it, my friend. So, an interesting week this week, Boat, on the YouTube channel. Let's start off. Now, I'm not going to lie. You know, me and the brother do a lot of shows that some are good and some are bad, some I'm not that interested in. But this was a lot of fun for me, Boat. And this is our look at the Bally Astrocade, a system which I really have not. I've had a cup of coffee with, but that's it. It was fun. Brent did a thorough look into the Astrocade. I got to give him credit. He really went deep.
I was surprised. Because normally you're the one that does all the research on the show, and Brent went to town on this thing.
And we have our buddy. It's funny that the guy who won our Dragon's Lair mini contest was a guy named Bally Alley. He runs the channel for Bally Astrocade. So we had his stuff to draw upon. And we actually picked a couple decent games this time around, Boat. I went with the oddly named Incredible Wizard, which is a straight-up version of Wizard of War. And the funny thing about it is the people that made it for the Astrocade made it in the arcade. So while they changed the name, is up to there. I've seen some various conjectures. We talked about it. But this is probably the best game on the system, what I've been told. Full two-player support. The arcade, it's got the exact same sound chip as the arcade machine, so the sounds are arcade perfect. Just a great version of Wizard of War.
You know, here's the thing. Yeah. Here's the thing. This machine was released in 77, right? 78, something like that. This kills the VCS. Well, I mean, graphically.
Well, this does. Like, I didn't mention this is the best game.
Well, I mean, I listen to the podcast, of course. And much like most of the ARG Presents podcasts, I come out of it wanting the machine because it just sounds so cool.
You know, I saw one of these go for $255. Had been recapped, the joystick complete repaired with the multi-cart just 2 or 3 days ago. So they can be picked up for a song. It's funny if you listen to the show. The way that this thing was marketed was the stupidest way imaginable. It was all first. It was they missed Christmas and it was mail order only. It was all kinds of dumb things that you would do. Then it was an exclusive from Montgomery Ward.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah, so Brent looked at a game called Artillery Duel, which was well and good except for the fact that it required you to have 2 people to play it. So I had to kind of fudge my way through it. But overall, I really enjoyed looking at the Bally. So if you're interested in the Bally Astrocade or you think you just might want to hear about it, check that out. I thought that was a pretty fun show. We also released the most recent Ask the Amigos. Bo, do you remember anything about this one?
Well, I know that we talked about the most annoying UI feature in a game.
Yeah, that's it, right?
It's our usual shtick. We spend a couple hours answering all of Discord's burning questions. So if
I listened to some of this. It was actually it's funny to go back and listen to these, especially old ones, because sometimes you're like, "What was I thinking?" So,
I'm sure that I've changed my mind several times on some of these questions too, because we get asked the same question sometimes more than once. So
Luke was in here when I was looking at this, and he was like, "What is this?" I was like, "This is what you're going to be watching when I'm long gone, and you're wondering who I was." And I thought to myself, "That is scary. That is a scary proposition right there." Now, here's one that came out of nowhere, Boat. Surprisingly for me, you know, I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but our good buddy, our good personal friend, Dave from Arizona, did me a solid, Boat, and because I got this mister that you bought me. You did me a solid first. I put you over, by the way, for that.
Thank you.
And then he printed me out a 3D case for my mister, which if you're watching the video, it's me showing this thing off. I've got it sitting right here. It's a glorious case, Boat. I first got this. Nice. I got the idea from Eric. From Pixel Gaten, who did a video on the channel showing off his case. And I liked his case, but I was like, David Z, can you do this and that? And he took care of me, man. And so I did this video here just showing off the case. You know, I was like, I'm going to show people what this looks like and how it works. And it was real well received. Boy, I've got a lot of feedback on this too. And the funny thing about it is, if a lot of people have misters, right? And if you have a mister and you think having a wedge case for it might be appealing to you, David Z is actually selling these to order, and he can even do the deal with you on terms of what you want. And so if you're interested in that, you can get hold of David Z. If you watch this video, his contact information's there. But if you don't watch, I'll just give it to you now. You can contact David Z at djzomv@gmail.com. And just as your subject line, I'll talk about the case, say something about Mr. Case, and Dave will set you up. And I can tell you, and Bo, you know this for a fact, we've both gotten stuff from Dave. His 3D printing abilities are off the charts. Charts good.
Oh, yeah.
So I highly recommend this. But if you're interested in just looking at the case or seeing what I'm up to, you can check that out, Boat.
Awesome. Here's
one. Sprite Castle plays karate games. I actually was in this chat watching this, and I was bad-mouthing IK Plus, Boat. I was taking a page out of your book. I turned
You don't
heel.
like IK Plus. You've never liked that game.
I think the idea of having 3 of the fighters at once is dumb. I was like, what is this? It doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, all that said, and the thing is, as far as I know, you can't turn that off, that feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to have 3.
And so I was already into it when I said that I didn't like the controls in this compared to the arcade. Well, they didn't like that, but eventually they agreed that the arcade had better controls.
You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. I don't know if either the C64 version looks great or the Amiga version looks bad, but the C64 version looks just as good as the Amiga version.
Yeah, they're both quite good looking, you know. And I'm sure at the time this was gold. And then Flack plays some lesser known titles. I don't even know. I don't remember what that was. I'm not going to ask what that was. He also plays the fan built Bruce Lee sequel. Boat, which I've actually played this. It's real good. I was like, man, that's great. So lots of karate games this week from the Flashtro. So if you're into if you are into karate games or you just want to hear Jack go to work, this is a good one to watch. I enjoyed this one, as I always do. You know me. Here we go. Of course, if you're jonesing to hear the Patreon band song from last week, it's available as always. Boat has gloriously uploaded that.
Look at all of my faces on there.
Yeah,
I'm a damn handsome man.
That's amazing that they got any views. Can you get negative views on something? I guess not. Now here we go. Hermsky's weekly offering is back, and this is a new game. Am I getting this right here? Rick Brick ZX Spectrum, new for 2021 game review with gameplay. So I haven't got to see this yet. This just
I haven't had a chance to watch this one yet either.
Oh, that is new, Boat. Look at that. So Hermsky got the scoop here. Have you heard of this game? Brick Graveyard Shift. Oh man, we're gonna have to check this out. So Hermsky did get on the ground floor apparently to play this game, and it looks pretty good, Boat. So if you're interested in checking this out, hop over here and check it out. Hermsky's got it up. It is part of the channel over here. Rick Brick ZX Spectrum game new for 2021. Last on the docket, but certainly not least, our good buddy Frodo, and he's back. He's playing the first year of the MSX. Now let me tell you something. I've been playing a lot of MSX, and I enjoy it immensely. Boat. The MSX is like if the consoles and early 8-bit computers had a baby, you would get the MSX. Have you tooled around with the MSX that much on your Mister?
Just a little bit on the Mister, and I like what I see.
Yeah, man. These things are the Mister. This is one of those computers that it opens up for you because it's not something that could be readily picked up here in the States. You know, and Frodo goes to work on us. It's funny. Because of Luke's Jiu-Jitsu, I've been missing Frodo's streams. I went to go back and check this. I always have to catch him out after the fact. But this looks great. He plays a lot. I recognize a lot of these. But I think the MSX, an excellent machine. And Frodo always does it up real well. So check out Frodo NL looking at the first year of the ZX Spectrum. I think, Boat, that's all we got, my friend.
All right. Well, me and Neil got up to some stuff last week.
Oh, yeah.
On the old This Week in Retro. And Aaron, they're making games on every conceivable platform these days. They're not content to go with the old hardware, the Spectrum, the C64. Aaron, last week we played a game that was entirely written in PDF.
This was amazing, Boat. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't believe this thing, and watching it, I downloaded it too. Can you explain this to people in some way?
So basically, what this is it's a 200,000 page PDF, and you launch it in a PDF viewer, and but it's all hyperlinked. Okay, so like there are different areas on the screen, like the arrows to move around, are just hyperlinks to other pages in the PDF. It's an ingenious thing. And the game is great. I'm no big fan of dungeon crawlers. But this is a dungeon crawler I can get behind because you're not crawling around a dungeon the whole time. You're going and visiting different areas. There's different towns. It's almost like a Bard's Tale type thing rather than a traditional, stupid dungeon crawler like Dungeon Master.
If you said this is the new ZX Next game, Aaron, and you showed me this, I would buy it.
Right.
I would be like, oh yeah, I could see that. It's a stunning. Someone is ultra clever at Boat.
Yeah. And so this is originally, this was a port of a game that was just written in HTML. And the guy basically just took it and was like, man, I can make a PDF out of that. There's even music. The music is actually hyperlinked to the World Wide Web, and you just click a MP3 in your browser. But the music's really good. I highly, highly recommend this. We talked about this. We talked about there's a new sort of like docudrama about British bedroom coders that combines, sort of reenactments with new footage of interviews and things like that.
Reenactments?
Check that out. Yeah.
You mean like the Oliver twins, like in their room?
Exactly.
I've got to see.
Like that. Do you remember Real Stories of the Highway Patrol?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do. Yes.
So it's like that. Picture Real Stories of the Highway Patrol, but about British bedroom coders.
Oh my God! So it's that level of acting abilities involved in staging.
Well, I'm not gonna.
You're burying these guys.
No, I'm not gonna do that because this guy, he's been through the ringer.
Yeah.
And he has, I guess his studio got robbed twice. They had to start over. He got beat up by thugs. This guy's.
You mean the director?
Yeah.
He should have some sort of footage of. He should do that as a reenactment.
So the game was, or the thing was kickstarted, and then there haven't been updates. Now it's getting ready to roll out. So we talk about that. We talk about OS 3.2, of course, the big story, and then Mega Man. Aaron, there's a physical Mega Man release of a game that was only available on the Sega Channel. Did you ever Sega Channel it up, Aaron?
No, I didn't have a Sega, so no. I've heard about the Sega Channel. In fact, I think it was even offered down our way, but I didn't.
It was. One of my friends had the Sega Channel, and it was all right. It was a thing that you downloaded games onto your console, which was a crazy concept back then.
I'm not the biggest Mega Man guy, but if you are, I guess this is right up your alley.
Yeah. So anyway, this week in retro, check it out. We got new news stories, me and RMC, every single week.
It looks like you and Neil are trying to outdo each other to see who looks the most like an old professor. Like,
listen,
what's happening here? It's a geek off.
I was getting dressed that morning, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go with the jacket. I'm gonna kneel it up this this morning. So
lovely, Boat. You won't see me doing that. I can tell you that. You win every time.
All right, Aaron. Well, I guess that's going to round up our community view of the week.
Yeah.
We do have some high score challenges that are going on over on the Discord. As always, if you are a supporter of Amigos or any of the shows on the network, you get access to our Discord server. We've got an Amigos high score challenge right now. Hybris is rolling on, Aaron.
What does that
there
end,
are some
Bo?
really impressive scores. Yeah, you got to get in there, man. And on the Specky side of things, Synapse, which is another shooter.
Man. We tried
and
that
so,
one, didn't we?
Yeah, the action is hot and heavy, especially on the Spectrum side. There are some guys that really know their way around the Spectrum.
That game was hard.
On the Amigos side, looks like Z9K9 is gonna take this one home again. But that's no surprise to anybody.
I may go for it, Boat. I may do that tonight. I may live stream my attempt tonight later.
I would love that. Yeah, I would love to see that. All right, Aaron. Now it's time to thank some of the fine folks that make Amigos possible, starting with our Twitch subscribers. If you enjoy watching the show live, which you can every Friday at 5:30 Eastern, I think we're going to go with 5:30 at least for the next couple weeks. And you can watch us live. You can subscribe to the Twitch channel, Amigos Retro Gaming, and help us out. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you get 1 free sub, and that benefits us. You can join this fine list of folks: Macintosh Librarian, Mitsuyama, Pints and Amiga, Blow Jellyfish, Eeyore 4077, Krabs MTG, OROM, Frodo NL, Scumboy, Jigglebox, Retro Jerry, Super Famiking, Chris Edwards Restoration, Uber Scuba Diver, Jost 80, Amy Steph, Lord Soup, Matt Dufort, The Slow Norse, Captain Chaos DK, RetroRewind.ca, Amiga Live, Still Adolescing, Dave Velociraptor, JK, DK, Buck Owens, Edvin Helen, John Marshall, Blip Blop, Gary Heather, Blue Train, Rob O'Hara, Great Owl G, ChronosNet, and Negsol. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to us on Twitch. All right, Aaron. Now, the time has come to announce the winners of last week's Patreon Song Challenge. Now, before we do that, I do want to welcome our new supporters, Jude Carlos and Explorer, Aaron. XPLORR, spelled cool guy style.
That is cool guy style. Welcome in, y'all.
Yeah, welcome Jude Carlos and Explorer. And our Patreon song last week, Aaron, was Just What I Needed by the Cards.
That's not how I would have phrased it. That was not what I needed.
We want to thank Rob O'Hara, again, #1 with a bullet. He's the master of the quick response. Scumboy got it right. L. Curtis Boyle, Mr. Cola, Paul Kitching, The Slow Norris, and Joe Ski Rock. It's interesting when we have American bands versus British bands, we sort of get the answers from the side of the pond where the band hails from.
Yeah, we were wondering if anybody would know the Cars over in Europe, so there you go.
Yeah, I guarantee you they weren't as big of a deal there as they were here. All right, Aaron, this week's Patreon Song Challenge, if you know it, send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com. And if you're in the chat, please, please, please do not answer in the chat. Send me an email. All right, Aaron, hit it.
Good luck, everyone.
Matthew Mobius. Fanti Magnus Sethiates, Alistair Fiend, Christian Russell, David Z, George Rosansky, The Amiga Show, Daniel Crabtree, Super Family King, Crazy Loomis, William Vitterscott, Heavy Systems Inc., Bundy Frag, Lord Mark Bylam, Olaf Hope Hermsky, Jonah a.k.a. Simulant, Alien Breeder, Dave Velociraptor, Calvert Boy Langdonson, Luke Hudson, John Cook on the bass, Frodo in El Sol Incisor, Tech Mage Jurgen, Mr. Cola, Daniel Williams, Bernard Lucas, Jerry Dinnington, Zorg Love, Reflection, Simon Nash, Captain Crispy, Kilobytes and Caffeine, Gary Heather, Free Lunch, K Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Lobsterminator, 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, Bernard Quinn, RMC, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Letter, Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Shanzo, Markbit, Roland Book, Getter amongst Joe the Zombie, Faith Killon, Alan Kebab, Check Cocktail, Levelor, John Marshall, You Perron, Get the Roche, Creep,
Dead, Wolfig, CTZ. The Slow, Norris, Stefan, Surgon, Mortensen, Edvin, Helen, Lando 75, Christopher Hassel. Rabbi Abbott, Chris Foles, Lorenz Giroux, Graham Becky, Adam Battersfield, Brian's Retro Gary, Heather, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Nad, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THG, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy, Humberstad, Daniel Bankston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Wards, Pixels of Dawn, and Bjorn Barman.
Really cheesed that one up there at the end, didn't you, Bode?
Listen, the list of names is long, and the song was a little too short.
You need to make up another verse for that one. Jeez, man.
All right. So if you know that one, John at AmigosPodcast.com. Of course, we couldn't go anywhere without recognizing all the fine folks who have joined us in the chat for this live recording session. And we're going to start things off with our mega moderators, Duncan Styles and Pixels at Dawn Gaming. Thank you guys so much. And we've got a nice crowd this evening. We got 2020 here, Academy Impossible, Amiga Cami, Amiga Live, Bitstorm, Blip Blop, Buck Owens, Canadian Retro Things, Carbon 14 XYZ, Commander Root, Cowbird Boy, Dave's Donuts, Dave Velociraptor, Bimocene TV, Edvin Helland, broadcasting from the Man Cave, Eeyore 4077, Frodo NL, Great Al G. Oh, and if you guys were wondering, Great Al G, Graham has not been ejected from the Patreon band. He's had some glass ejected from his foot.
Yeah, that's
he got
no
some
good.
Glass up in there, Aaron.
That's
no good, man. What's that?
His feet are.
Oh yeah, I saw those X-rays on Discord. Yeah. So I'm glad that Graham is on the mend. And don't worry, folks. Graham. He will be back. Yeah. Gryzor75's here with us. Hamo1, Hermsky. I am Paul H., Boss Man himself. Thank you for filling in, Paul. Jason Warnes, Judge Groovy Man, Juka King, Junkating, L. Curtis Boyle, All Hail, Lyndon Term, Mitsuyama, Oram, Olaf Hope, Picard 2010's here, RetroRewind.ca, Rob O'Hara, Super Tech Boy, Tom Toms, Thurso Bard, VNK, Vector Frunk, Vigoro Pros, Wide World of Retro, Wishbone, and Explorer.
Yeah,
Aaron.
Good crowd.
Yeah.
Cool guy.
All right, and of course, big thanks to Lobsterminator also in the Patreon band doing the lead guitar.
If only he would sing, we'd be laughing.
You know, he may. He's got a great voice.
Oh, man.
So, Aaron, next week, like I teased earlier, we're going to do another helicopter game. This one is a little bit more in depth, Aaron. This one is Gunship 2000.
Ooh, that's a tough.
Year 2000.
No singing the title, Bode. Yes, I may own that one, Bode. I'll have to go up to consult the shelf of fun up here. That one may be on the shelf.
I want to say that Level Lord sent us a copy of that.
I hope it is, because it'd be nice to have
Gorky list.
It'd be nice to have all that stuff. You may need to play it
and drink the Gorky list at the same time.
Oh, that'd be a bad chopper ride, my friend.
All right. Well, Aaron, thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you guys next week. And until then,
adios.
Adios.